What if the Montreal Canadiens, on the brink of solidifying their playoff push, found themselves choked by their own financial missteps, watching a critical defensive target slip through their fingers just as the NHL trade deadline clock ticks down to zero? That's the brutal reality general manager Kent Hughes is grappling with right now, as the Calgary Flames pulled Zach Whitecloud, a rugged 23-minute-per-night defenseman who was a perfect fit for the Habs blue line, off the trade block after moving Mackenzie Weegar to the Utah Mammoth. Montreal, desperate to bolster their defense, received an indirect but resounding no, leaving fans a frenzy on social media. But the real story, the one nobody wants to confront, lies in the suffocating cap situation that's turned the Canadiens into beggars in a ruthless market. With just $1 million in cap space and a desperate need to offload Patrick Laine's $8.7 million contract, potentially retaining over $4 million just to make a deal happen, this isn't strategy. It's a fire sale born of desperation. Let's carve into the heart of this financial quagmire with unflinching clarity. The Canadiens are in a strong position on the ice, battling for a top spot in their division with a young core that's beginning to gel. But their blue line remains a vulnerability, prone to late-game breakdowns and lacking the physical, stay-at-home presence needed to protect the net in high-stakes situations. Zach Whitecloud, with his ability to log heavy minutes, clear the crease, and stabilize the defensive zone, was the ideal target to address that gap. His acquisition could have elevated Montreal's playoff readiness, providing the grit and reliability to complement the speed and skill of their forward group. But Calgary, after reshuffling their own roster, decided Whitecloud was too valuable to move, leaving the Habs empty-handed and scrambling for alternatives as the deadline looms. The root of this failure isn't just bad timing. It's a self-inflicted wound named Patrick Laine. The Finnish forward, acquired in a move that once seemed like a bold gamble on offensive upside, has become a millstone around Montreal's neck with his $8.7 million cap hit. With only $1 million in cap space remaining, Hughes is in a humiliating position of trying to dump Laine at a discount, reportedly willing to retain over $4 million of his salary just to convince a team like the Los Angeles Kings to take him off their hands. This is a negotiation. It's groveling. The cap crunch has stripped the Canadiens of any bargaining power, turned them into a target for predatory GMs who smell blood in the water. The inability to land Whitecloud isn't a one-off loss. It's the inevitable consequence of a front office that failed to anticipate the financial future when they took on Laine's contract. Let's examine the justice of the NHL market, a merciless force that punishes poor planning with savage efficiency. The karma of Montreal's cap mismanagement is a complete loss of leverage. The punishment for failing to create flexibility is being forced to operate in the final hours of the deadline as a distressed seller rather than a strategic buyer. Other GMs know the Habs are cornered, and the price for any remaining defensive targets, like Justin Falk of the St. Louis Blues or Dougie Hamilton of the New Jersey Devils, will be extortionate. The law of supply and demand has already shifted against Montreal, with players like Connor Murphy and Tyler Myers off the board, tightening the market for blue line help. In the NHL, the team that blinks first pays double, and the Canadiens are blinking hard, their cap situation a glaring neon sign of vulnerability. Tactically, the loss of Whitecloud is a gut punch to a team that desperately needs defensive stability to make a serious playoff push. Without a player of his ilk, Montreal risks entering the postseason with the same frailties that have plagued them in close games. Poor zone exits, inability to clear the net, and over-reliance on goaltending to bail out breakdowns. Alternatives like Falk or Hamilton come with their own complications. Falk, while reliable, carries a $6.5 million cap hit through 2027, a long-term commitment that could further constrain the Habs' flexibility. Hamilton, with his $9 million annual hit, is an offensive dynamo but a defensive liability at times, and his contract runs even longer through 2028. Acquiring either require not just moving Laine, but likely sacrificing draft picks or prospects as a toll to sweeten the deal for LA or another team to absorb Laine's salary. It's a cascading series of compromises, each one eroding the vision of a sustainable rebuild. From a cultural perspective, this situation is a bitter pill for the Canadiens fan base to swallow. Montreal prides itself on being a hockey mecca, a franchise that operates with foresight and class. Being reduced to begging for cap relief from teams like the Kings is a humiliation that stings, a far cry from the days when the Habs dictated terms in the market. Fans are already venting their frustration online, questioning how a team with such a storied history could find itself in such a precarious financial bind. The pressure on Hughes to salvage his deadline is immense. Fail to reinforce the defense, and the narrative shifts from playoff contender to mismanaged pretender, undermining the trust built during the early stages of the rebuild. Historically, the Canadiens have faced cap-related challenges before, often with mixed results. The early 2010s saw them burdened by contracts like Scott Gomez's, which limited their ability to make impactful moves and prolonged their competitive drought. Contrast that with the savvy cap management of the late 1980s and early 1990s, when strategic trades and signings kept the roster competitive without sacrificing the future. The lesson for Hughes is clear. Financial flexibility isn't just a luxury, it's a lifeline. The decision to take on Laine's contract, likely made with optimism about his fit and trade value, has backfired spectacularly, leaving Montreal in a position where every move feels like a desperate patch rather than a calculated step forward. Looking to the future, the implications of this deadline debacle could ripple through the Canadiens' trajectory for years. If Hughes can't offload Laine and secure a defensive upgrade, the team risks entering the playoffs underpowered on the blue line, vulnerable to early elimination and the narrative of close but not enough. That could stall the momentum of a young core just beginning to peak, shaking confidence in the locker room and among fans. Conversely, if he overpays to dump Laine, sacrificing draft picks or prospects just to create cap space, and then overpays again for a Plan B defenseman, the long-term cost could be crippling, depleting the assets needed to build a true contender when the contention window fully opens. The summer offers a chance to reset, but waiting until then means accepting defeat now. A bitter pill for a team and city hungry for postseason success. There's also the human element to consider. Laine, once seen as a potential offensive catalyst, is now a pariah in trade talks, his value diminished by injury concerns and inconsistent production. Being shopped at a discount, with Montreal retaining salary just to move him, can't be easy on his psyche, potentially affecting his performance wherever he lands. For Hughes, the challenge is balancing the cold math of cap management with the morale of a player who, if unmovable, remains part of the locker room. It's a delicate dance, one that could further complicate an already tense situation as the deadline nears. So, I'm putting the decision in your hands. If you were Kent Hughes, would you bite the bullet, paying a toll in draft picks or other assets to convince a team like the LA Kings to take Patrick Laine's contract off your books, freeing up space to chase an emergency defenseman at an inflated price? Or would you swallow the bitter loss of Zach Whitecloud, refuse to act out of desperation, and preserve your assets for a more favorable market in the summer, even if it means entering the playoffs with a glaring hole on defense? This isn't just about one trade. It's about financial discipline, playoff readiness, and the soul of a rebuild hanging in the balance. Drop your verdict in the comments, and let's debate whether the Canadiens should cut their losses or double down in the face of a merciless market. The Bell Center demands answers, and with the deadline clock flashing red, there's no room for hesitation.